hello and welcome to It Could Have Been One Book, where I tell you about a series that could have been one book. I just finished Kingdom of the Feared, which is the third book in Kingdom of the Wicked, which just came out. It was so long. I think my real problem is that I read it at the same time as I read House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas, which also has a lot of random useless plot, so I was just very confused, but let's talk about it. So it starts with this girl, and her name is Amelia, and she is Italian, and she's a witch, and she has a twin sister. And her twin sister dies. Her twin sister's name is Vittoria, which I hate because it's not Victoria, it's Vittoria or something. So Vittoria dies, and she decides that, like, the solution to this problem is to just summon a demon to figure out who killed her. So she summons a prince of hell, and she doesn't just summon him, she accidentally, like, binds them together in, like, a marriage bond or something. And he's wholeheartedly upset about this, and she's upset about this, and they hate each other. But they're gonna work together to solve these murders because apparently it benefits both parties. And objectively, listen, the first book, I kind of liked it. Dare I say it? I liked Wrath. I thought he was fun. I thought he was funky and fresh. Amelia was fine. But, like, I didn't hate it until, like, halfway through when it just, like, nothing was happening at all. So, like, they're going around and they're investigating these murders and they're not really getting anywhere. And she meets, like, greed and envy and lust and stuff like that. We find out that Pride wants to marry a witch and that someone is killing all of these witches before Pride can take a bride, because apparently if Pride gets married, it's wholeheartedly a bad time for everyone involved. We learned this like halfway through the book, so I don't know why this book takes so long to finish. But anyway, the entire time, like, Wrath and Amelia are, like, kinda having something. It's like a very, like, I hate you, but also you're really hot, but also I hate you. So that's happening. And then she decides that, like, maybe she does like him. Maybe he's not just an evil boy. He likes cannolis, so he can't be that bad, even though he's a prince of hell. He likes cannolis, so maybe he's a sweet boy, who's to say? This is towards the end of the book when she decides this, and then I believe it's Envy. It's been a while since I read the first book. Envy is like, well, you know, Wrath is only hanging with you because if he brings a witch to Pride to get married, then he will be free of his curse or whatever. So then she gets upset because she's like, how could he betray me? Oh my god, I can't believe this. Never mind, we're enemies again. And she's like, Wrath, I hate you, you're terrible, you were just using me. And he's like, yes, that's the yes. You're right, I was just using you. And then she's like, I'm gonna go marry Pride, and then you're gonna get your freedom, and then fuck you, and then blah. So then that's how the first book ends. And then the second book, nothing happens. Like, at all. So the second book, she agrees to marry Pride, so she has to go through this thing called the Sin Tunnel. I'm not even joking, it's genuinely called the Sin Tunnel. And it's just a tunnel where, like, sins are amplified, I guess. So she's very angry, so most of the time her sin is wrath. That's, like, her strongest sin, because, like, this whole series, you know, she's supposed to be with wrath. That's the vibe we get. So obviously her biggest sin is wrath, and also she, like, keeps being like, God, wow, I really wish Wrath wasn't so evil because I really want to bone him, but whatever. So then they get out of the Sin Tunnel, and then they're in Wrath's kingdom, and he's like, well, we have to be invited by Pride to his kingdom, so we're just gonna have to wait until he invites us, and then you can go and be married. And so she just, like, stays with Wrath in his kingdom. I think 50% of the book is just her being like, when's Pride gonna pick me up? And he's like, I don't know, eventually. And then she finds out, because of the marriage bond that they had in the OG book, and all of that, that he basically has a claim on her. And so Pride's never gonna come and collect his bride because it's not his bride, it's Wrath's fiance, basically. And she's all upset about this. I don't know why, because she's the one who got the bond initiated in the first place. But anyway, the way to complete this bond so that they're like officially married is they have to have sex. This is what annoyed me the most about the second book, is like the entire time Wrath is like, no, we can't have sex because like freedom of choice, like you don't understand what you're getting into. Like if we're like fully married, like there are so many consequences. So like every time things get really heated with them, he's just like, no, I can't. You don't understand. And I'm like, okay, like listen, I get it. You are a man written by a female. Like we love consent. We love a feminist king. But like this happens like 7 times. And like she is like fully like, no, I do want to bone. Hear me out. I'm ready. I'm fully committed. I'm into it. And he's like, no, you don't even know who I am. You don't even know anything. So we find out that Wrath is the devil and also Samuel, and also he's the most powerful ever. And also he lost his wings because of a curse, and also she can't remember her past life because of a curse. Then we also find out that Vittoria, remember her twin that we thought was dead in the beginning? She's alive. She's an angel, apparently. And then that's how the book ends. And then we get to the third book. Maybe it's just because I was reading the Sarah J. Maas book at the same time, but this book made no goddamn sense. So anyway, Victoria is not dead, but she's also not an angel. We thought she was an angel. She's not. She's the goddess of death. There's an 8th house in hell, so like, you know, the 7 prides. There's also another one called the House of Vengeance. She wants Amelia to die so that Amelia can remember her past life where she was actually the goddess of fury. And she ruled the House of Vengeance with Vittoria. Are you with me? Because that's only the first chapter. So she's like, no, I don't want to do that. Vittoria has been accused of killing some people and also seems like overall a pretty mean person. Oh, I forgot about the last bit. Before we find out that Vittoria is an angel, or after, this book is confusing. In the second book, she is like, all right, Wrath, hear me out. I know that you're the devil. I know that you're Samuel. I know that you were cursed. I don't care. I'm accepting it. Let's bone. Let's get married officially and then have sex. And so that's how the book ends. So they finally fuck, thank God. Smut, bad. But waiting for smut to happen because we have a feminist king who's like, no, you don't understand. You don't know the consequences. Awful. So they bone. They're now married. They're having a great time with it. Then, literally right after they bone, is when Vittoria takes her to the Shadow Realm and tells her all of her evil plans and is like, I have to take out your heart so that you can fully ascend and become a goddess of fury. And then we can rule the House of Vengeance together. And she's like, bro, I literally just had sex and I was taking a nap. Like, what are you talking about? So that happens. We find out that like Greed's assistant person got killed and they all think it's Victoria and everyone's very upset about it. Amelia is like, it couldn't have been Victoria. She's a good person. Basically, the rest of the book is just like her trying to remember all of the things that happened in her past life. And then she finally is like, you know what, here's the thing. I've gotta ascend so that I can remember everything. So she gets her heart ripped out. She remembers all of her past life. She becomes very girl boss and can fight many people, and it's great. And then we find out that the curse that Wrath has, not only were his wings stolen, but also if he falls in love, whoever he loves will just disappear. So she's like, we gotta break this curse. And then Victoria's like, I also want you to rule the House of Vengeance. So those are kind of the 2 things that are happening. Apparently in the past, Wrath and Amelia were also in love and married. And something about that revolves with the curse that now they can't be in love. Victoria doesn't want them to be in love because Victoria is like, I don't want to lose my sister. So she ascends. She becomes the goddess of fury. She has fire and very powerful. She's so powerful, the most powerful, and she's a girl boss. and she is going on this quest. So many murder quests. In fantasy books, they're like, how can we make these two characters work together? I don't know, they've got to go solve a murder. She is trying to solve the murder of Greed's war ambassador, whatever, being dead so that she can make sure that Victoria didn't actually kill them. Also trying to figure out how to break the curse. They find out so much stuff happens, it's not important. Basically, we're at like the end of the book and we find out that the way to break the curse is to get this sword that can kill any of the princes of hell. We just need to get the sword and somehow we will know to break the curse. So the sword is impossible to find and she goes to this well that only she has access to, this little well of memories. So she goes to this well of memories that only she can get to, and she goes and she has to like sort through all these memories to find the right memory that has where the sword is. And we find out that the sword is with this witch who used to be Pride's wife, but something happened between them and she didn't want to be Pride's wife anymore and she wanted to forget that whole thing. So she goes to this witch and she goes, hey bestie, remember me? And she goes, oh my god, I do. What's up? And she's like, I need that sword. And she's like, I don't remember anything about this sword, but I was told to never give it to anyone. Oh, other thing, God, this is a mess. Okay, so she knows where the sword is. She's like, okay, Wrath, how many days do you have left to break this curse? Because the original witch cursed him and was like, if you don't break this curse in 6 days, 6 months, in 6 years, anyone you ever love will just disappear. And I don't really know how that works. Like, do they just, like, where do they go? Like, do they die? Or do they just, like it's not said where they go. So I'm confused. Because also, if they just died, like, couldn't her sister Victoria just, like, bring them back to life? Bada bing, bada boom? I don't know. It's a curse. It's magical. So she's like, okay, so I know about the curse, I know about the sword, I know how to break it. How many days do we have left? And Wrath is like, a day. And I was like, fucking, this is when I started getting very upset with the book, because this is silly. We already have so many factors at play that make this thing difficult. Why are you giving it a time limit like a single day? Like, let's give it a week, maybe. I think it's probably because this book was already so long. So she goes, she grabs the sword, and she's like, how do I activate it to break the curse? Her friend is like, okay, so I have to activate it with my blood, and then you have an hour to use it to break the curse. And the way you break the curse is Wrath has to stab you in the heart and you have to be willing to sacrifice all of your power, because through love all is conquered. And I was like, another time crunch? Not only do they have a day, but they also have an hour. She has to travel from fake Sicily to the underworld in an hour, and then she has to convince Wrath to stab her? My god, that doesn't have to be that complicated. It's already hard enough of a choice because she has to give up all of her powers, and right now she's like the most powerful bitch in the game. So she goes all the way back and she's like, hey Wrath, missed you so much, how's it going? Okay, here's the thing, got the sword, right? Know how to break the curse. You do have to stab me in the heart, and then I have to be willing to sacrifice all of my powers for you. And he's like, not gonna happen, no can do. And she's like, well, I really want to hear you say I love you, so it is gonna have to happen. And I'm like, why are we having this conversation? Like, why is this 3 pages? Like, that is, let's go. So he decides to stab her in the heart, and she loses all of her powers, but the curse is broken. So they can go and bone and say I love you while boning, and it's so wonderful. Everyone's so happy about it. I also don't think this is the end of the series because there are still a few loose strings that I haven't even touched upon because I don't care. They get married. There's a whole coronation, and he's just like, I've loved you since the day I saw you. I'm so happy that we're together. I'm so happy you broke the curse. You know, like with the curse being broken, I have all of these powers now, so let me give you some of my powers. So now she has the fiery powers back, and they're in love and happy. Here's why it could have been 1 book. Because, and I would have liked it, let me tell you, I would have liked it if it was 1 book, because I liked Wrath in the first book and the first book alone. So here's the thing, right? This is what I would do. If I was a gal who could just fix this, keep the first half of the book, right? Instead of the first half of the book where she's like, hee hee, I'm gonna go get a demon and figure out why my sister died. She summons Wrath. Keep that and have them like look for like 3 witches and then like stop there. And then you can have like Pride being like, you know, he only wants you so that he can be free of his curse and whatever like that. We can have all of that and we can have that whole part. But that could still be in the first book because it's really not a whole lot of plot. And then we just take out the part where they refuse to bone for an entire book. Just scrap that whole thing. Just get the fuck out of there. We don't need that. Hear me out. Brings him to the thing. She's like, why isn't Pride coming to get me? And he just goes, because we're married. Do you not remember that? Do you not remember binding me to you in a marriage bond? Like, that's why. And then he goes, by the way, I'm Samuel. You have a past life. Bada bing, bada boom. We've got to solve that. We've got to break the curse. Then they break the curse in the first book. Doesn't have to be an hour. Hear me out. What if Victoria, leave her dead? She's irrelevant. I don't care. Let's get rid of the whole 7th house. Let's get rid of the whole she's secretly a goddess, or we can even keep that. But Victoria added too many complications. Instead of there being like 17 different murder mysteries, why don't we just have one plot called Figure Out How to Break the Curse? And then once they break the curse, then they can get married, and then the second book can be that Victoria was still alive, and maybe we make her evil, because that sounds more fun than her just existing, but she's not evil, but she's kind of evil, but really she just is there for plot convenience. Those are my thoughts. I would have done that. If I were to rewrite the book, I would have maybe been like, oh, there are 3 murders, and then we find out that it was because Pride needs a wife, and we find out that is needed to break the curse, and then find out that she's never leaving the Parath castle because they're technically betrothed, and then they fall in love, and then they have to break that curse. And she can be like a goddess of fury or whatever, but I feel like that would be a great book. That's got a lot of action, it's a lot of packed, but it's still like a convenient plot. It's one thing that they're trying to solve. This last book, they were trying to solve a murder, they were trying to solve their past lives. Also, scrap the past life thing. I don't really like the past life thing. I don't know. I see it and it annoys me. It frustrates me, but it's fine. Scrap the past life thing. Scrap the other 3 murders that are being solved and just focus on one plot, you know? Just focus on one. Those are my thoughts. I hope this video made sense. So anyway, that's all I've got for you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace, peace.